Let me see.
Well, it's not nice, but it is dark now. It's just before 7.
Right. Let me see if I can get you guys. So I made you co-host.
Okay. So let's just check the share screen. What's this? Launch? No,
I don't know.
no, this is, hold on. Okay, where did you go? Why don't you take over?
Okay.
This is David's Mac, my Mac. Which I'm not an Apple person.
Hola, Jordy.
Hola.
Oh, la carrera, tío.
¿Qué pasó?
Bueno,
Que llego, tengo que ir a dejar las cosas que tengo y después venirme.
Where's Jordy?
he's
He's just about to sit down. He's here.
Oh, okay.
Hello,
Hi, Jordy.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Now I can say tired because I comment you, I don't live in Barcelona. I came by train and they leave my luggage in a house, in a friend's house, and come here.
Oh, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you.
Hola. Absolutely sweat now.
No important.
so Mark, you can see that. Everyone can see that. The
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Just waiting for some more people.
Tengo una copa de vino.
Time is it? 56.
No, sí, ya tío. Pensé que vendía.
Entonces para David.
David? No.
So to go forward and back, or how to go forward.
I would usually use these.
Perfect. Okay, that's what.
Oops, but let's not.
That's not working. Okay, that's works, but let's stop that. Now you go back. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay.
Just testing a few things.
Yeah, no worries. We have time. And I'm going to try something once we get people in here. I'm going to try to live stream it onto Facebook into our group.
Impressive.
I'm going to try. I'm not going to say it's successful, but I'm going to try.
It's just the loudest.
Let's not get into our miscellaneous challenges.
You guys scheming.
No, we're just talking about aging. Rod said his hearing's not what it used to be. I said, don't get me started.
Interesting. I have somebody in the waiting room called Zoom.
No, no, no para mí.
Oh, and I have somebody called I too. So.
Él quiere uno también.
Sí, 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 una copa.
Me trae la botella, bueno, aquí.
I think we went into the computer room.
We usually wait a few minutes after the hour just to some people, the latecomers, you know, it's fashionable. Gays come fast.
Well, and it's not mentioned in our materials here, but over here, God forbid, if you ever show up to somebody's 7 o'clock meeting before 7:03.
So yeah, okay, so it's that laid back.
Yes.
Very laid back.
I like that.
Have you ever been in Barcelona before?
Me?
No, one in general. I don't know.
I have not.
You have not, do real.
I have not been in Barcelona.
Okay.
When I was younger, I was in Malaga, Madrid, Sevilla, Costa del Sol.
Okay.
But that was when I was very young. I was 25.
Mm.
So, okay.
So 5-6 years ago.
That's it. There you go.
There in a couple of years. He just got back.
I was in Barcelona 2 days ago.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Who's this?
This is Mike.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. I missed the rain.
I also,
Today was a full day of heavy rain, which is unusual.
Plenty. Good.
I have also have a longtime friend of mine that just joined us.
Hello.
Tim, and he just
Hey,
vacated
Mark.
in Barcelona. Hi, Tim.
We
Just
have to
got
get in
back from
front of this.
Barcelona ourselves, so looking forward to hearing this.
Great. We're still getting quite a few people coming in.
Good. The more the merrier.
Yeah.
Plenty. Quit. No, thank you. Hello.
Hi, hello.
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 Hello. Oh, now I see you, Tim.
Okay. Just to be sure.
Plenty.
Un striptease si quieres, pero aquí para impresionar nada más. Es para tomar un tema aquí de Barcelona, que también podéis ir desnudos por la calle, pues mira, lo podemos comentar. Exacto.
Okay, what time is it? It's 10:02. We'll give it another minute or so. So we have 21 people so far.
Great.
And climbing.
Eso te lo digo. Así lo hay que esperar a todo el mundo. Y creo que voy a estar hablando poco a poco, ¿no?
Sí,
Sí, pero no.
Normalmente hay que esperar 5 minutos después.
Sí, no, pero debo de hacer un poco de ir hablando nosotros con ellos y después comenzar en firme, ¿no?
Así
Pero va a ser
ahora,
muy-
25.
To learn Spanish.
Sorry.
No, not at all. I'm still taking my online course. So.
Excellent, excellent.
But I say
Duolingo.
just to try to be polite, because my idea was to make a very informal talk these 5 minutes before
Oh, yeah.
start. Okay, but now we can start because we are on the time. We are on time, no?
Yeah, no worries. I wish I had a glass of wine, but you know what? It's just 10:04 here in.
Right.
Yeah, we try not to start much before 11:30 or so, Mark, AM. I'm joking, of course,
Speak for yourself.
some days.
Right, it's 7 p.m. here, so.
Yeah. All right. I think
About Barcelona, buddy.
it's about time. Start. And I think you guys, I'm not sure that you could admit people as well, since I made you co-host. I'm not very sure about that.
Yes, they do pop up. So.
Okay. So if you see someone hanging out that I don't see, you're more than happy to invite them in.
Sure.
Okay. So we'll get started. My name is Mark. I started the group Where Do Gays Retire. Started it back when we moved from the New York City area to Florida. We didn't know where to move. We moved to Florida for 4 years, found that it wasn't really what we were expecting or what we really enjoyed. So our journey wound us up in Phoenix, Arizona right now. So that's where we are. We're very happy here. But I started the group, and it started out really small for a while, and then it just exploded like 2 years ago. And now today, I think we have 11,700 people in our Facebook group.
Wow.
And I created a website off that, so it would enable us to host these Zoom meetings as well. So everything is free. I don't charge anything. I just ask if you enjoy the show, enjoy the Zoom. There's a little coffee cup on every page of my website, and if you click on it, you can buy me a cup of coffee. Each cup of coffee costs $5 towards the software and time and energy I put into these things. So if you'd like to donate, I greatly appreciate it. With that said, I'm going to introduce our 3 co-hosts that graciously volunteered to do this Zoom. They're all living in Barcelona currently. I'll start off with Rod. Since living in Spain, and I'll give you a little short bio of each one. So since living in Spain for 3 years, in his mid-20s, Rod Fiorito always had the dream of moving back to Spain. 30 plus years later, 2 months after retiring as a federal employee in Washington, D.C., Rod moved to Barcelona on his own in March of 2014, having already established some Spanish-speaking Barcelona contacts. He is now in his 7th year, currently permanent residency visa. Okay. Then we have David Warren is with us. He retired at age 66, born in Fort Lauderdale, lived there in 9 US states and 3 foreign countries, UK, France, and Spain. At age 16, he was an exchange student and lived for 10 months with a Catalan family near Barcelona. Worked in high-tech software most of his adult life, visited more than 90 countries in context of my job and vacations. Wow. Single, but had loving a Spanish boyfriend for the past 10 months. That relationship continues to grow. And we'll be
He's sitting over here on the sidelines, but he's a little shy.
Oh, say hello. I want to
Come on, say hello to Christian.
Hi, Christian.
Oh, hi, how are you?
Good, good. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Okay, now
Good. Welcome.
Bye,
Bye.
David's passions: travel, mostly independent and adventure travel. Favorite destinations include Spain, Italy, New Zealand, Thailand, South Africa, and Turkey. Loves sports, baseball, football, tennis, rugby, music of all genres, lots of concerts, films, sci-fi, adventure, animals, and of course, men. Things that he holds dear are friends, most of which are really family and my small family, travel memories, good meals with great wines, and making plans for his next visit. And now for Jordy. Jordy was born in Venezuela, is a Spanish citizen who has been living in Barcelona for the past 20 years. He's very passionate in getting to know people from all over the world, is in love with the architecture, history, and culture of Barcelona and Catalunya. And sorry if I pronounce that.
That's good.
For the last 10 years, Jordy has been leading a bear hiking group that explores various parts of the Catalan countryside. Jordy also has a passion for digital photography. And I also, I again want to thank all you three guys for coming, joining, and doing this today. And Jordy also for helping these guys out and befriending them. And I think, you know, you have a big heart too. So thank you. And who's going to take it first? Is it?
I start.
I'll start and then pass it over to Jordan.
Okay.
So so thank you all for showing up and being able to share this time with us. We all love Barcelona, and we are always happy to talk to people who are interested in knowing about a little bit more about the city and the area. So we're gonna zoom in through Google Earth to Barcelona, and we'll give you a little tour. In Barcelona, we have, you know, it's right on the Mediterranean Sea. So we have the beach surrounded by mountains in the back and to the north. And of course, it's the second largest city in Spain. So it's a cosmopolitan city with great architecture that Jordy's going to talk about, as well as lots of culture and arts. And so Jordy will now take over. Oh no, I'm sorry. So these are the topics we're going to be going over. So climate, culture, food, the LGBTQI community, healthcare for expats, how would we go about getting healthcare, and the languages that are spoken here in Barcelona, what one could expect in terms of cost of living, and if you were to decide to move here, or at least spend a year, at least 1 year here, what the visa and process requirements are. And then just in general, what, you know, the good life that we David, Jordy and I experienced here in Barcelona. And then finally, some resources that you can look things up later on your own. So with that, Jordy will talk about climate, culture, and food.
Okay, start the first. Okay, well, climate is well, as you read it, it's some Mediterranean climate, the Mediterranean weather here. It's a mild winter. It's very mild, and a warm and humid summer, especially July and August. Is you like this kind of weather? It's your time here. It's not for me. That's a matter of, I will try to be more informal in time to give you the information about talking about my experiences. Okay, it's a city with fortunately, it's a very sunny city. That means there are rainy days per year, 78. There are years like this one, you have maybe less than 10, 20 days rainy this year, because it has been absolutely dry this year.
However, it rained most of the day today.
For the statistics, I will be very, very high because of today.
Yeah.
Okay. The temperature is too mild in summer. In winter, could be winter is around well 50s, something 50s, 60s in the at noon. At noon or at night, it's very rare to be lower than 40s degrees. But that's in downtown. If you go to the upper side of town, the temperature will be reduced. Okay, that could arrive around 30s, 30 something, and the open side of town and the hills. And maybe in that area, it's possible to snowfall in winter, especially in February, March. February, March, okay? The last snowfall in Barcelona was in 2018. It was on the mountain, not far. That belongs to Barcelona, but it's not exactly downtown. It's in suburb. Sorry?
Oh, okay. Yes. Thanks.
Okay. So that in general, the fluctuation, there are no large fluctuation of temperature in Barcelona. That is okay in it's okay in winter, but not good in summer. You will feel that you were in a steam bath the whole day, around 40 days. So be prepared if you like that. That's in Barcelona. For that reason, most of the people here in summer go to other places, and the city is only for tourists.
I feel compelled to add, though, of course, everything's relative depending on where you live or where you have lived. To me, I don't find the climate here humid, but then I lived in South Florida myself for half of my life. So when we talk about it being hot, the humidity gets up to maybe 65%. So there's none of that Miami 90% humidity and it's 95 degrees. To me, it's very comfortable.
For you, it's comfortable.
So,
for you, not so much.
And coming from Washington, D.C. area, which is supposedly a humid city, I find Barcelona more humid. So
do you?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And especially in the winter, where the cold feels colder just because it's more humid.
Mm.
But
not in summer.
Yeah, I would agree.
And summer, of course, as well.
Okay, I have the same opinion like me. That is like a steam bath here.
Spring and fall are the best seasons in Barcelona.
Have you seen the sunshine duration here? You have seen the figures. Usually it's a very dry blue skies frequently here. That is very strange. Even in for Barcelona people to have 2 days in great time of overcast I think there are a lot of suicides here in town. So people is not get used to be without seeing the sun. And rainy and cloudy is strange here. At least 1 week.
It's odd.
Because things change here if you go 10 kilometers inland Barcelona. So temperature change dramatically. Crossing the hill, here the temperature will be could frozen during the whole winter, could be temperature below 40s maximum, but it changed. It's not exactly, this Barcelona have an area because of the buildings and so on. They are island or head island, I don't know how to say that in English, that make that temperature be higher than in the rest of areas. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's because of for the houses and so on. Yep. So it's in fact, it's a good weather here. It's okay, it's not necessary to buy heavy clothes for being here in Barcelona in winter. Because maybe in Barcelona could be 1 week, could be cold, could be, depending on the year.
Let me put it this way. If you're proud of your legs, you can wear shorts here from March until October. Mm-hmm. So it's not quite Phoenix, but it's very comfortable temperatures 9 months out of the year.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, when changing now to culture, we are talking different matters here about architecture because this is the most Barcelona is well known about his architecture, that people come exactly here for see Gaudí buildings. So one of the reasons for coming to Barcelona is to see Gaudí masterpieces. Barcelona is more than Gaudí and Art Nouveau. For that reason, I wrote here that from Roman walls, Gothic palace, Art Nouveau buildings and neighborhood, like the neighborhood we are now, and to people by a building designed by Pritzker awarded architects. They are the 21st century architecture is model in the new Barcelona because some of that buildings are now iconic, especially Torre Gloria, that is very funny here because have a different numbers. Maybe we are in a gay group, so I can say it. Mm-hmm. One of the name of this building is the Big Dildo. So that.
You saw the picture earlier on Rod's introductory slide, this new office building that looks like a dildo.
Right.
So the matter is that Barcelona, the people here is loving architecture. That means it's any buildings made here in Barcelona or designed in Barcelona have a big discussion. In general, people are talking about this matter. I'm very proud of architecture of city. Of course, we profit that for visiting all neighborhoods because most of the tourists come just to 2-3 areas, but the architecture is in all neighborhoods here. So that matter, maybe you go to the most poorest neighborhood in town, they are nice, modern and contemporary architecture.
Agreed.
So that's a matter to visit. If you come to live in Barcelona, don't stay in 2 or 3 points, going to all over the city, and you will enjoy the city without tourists. That is important to say, you know? So as you say, we have a city that love architecture, that they are in a architectural festival. The name is 40 Hour BCM Open House. That was held last week in Barcelona. They have the 10th edition. It came from an idea from New York. New York was the first in the world to create an event like this, and Barcelona was the 3rd city. So it's interesting if you want to visit, you see more than the facade. You can get in, especially governmental buildings or maybe architectural ateliers and
Private homes.
Private homes,
Yeah.
or even fountains. So you can visit the fountains. There are around 200 buildings that you can visit in one weekend, in a weekend. So it's not possible. Maybe you visit 5, 6, 7, because a lot of people is there. There are a lot of line to be. I'm taking 1 hour for visiting one building, but it's interesting to, if you are here living and you love architecture, that is your festival. Museums, okay? Maybe it's not it's not Paris, it's not Madrid, or it's not the imperial capital. So, but Barcelona has, well, I mean that they're smiling. So I mean, because Madrid has El Prado, it's a very official museum, Louvre in Paris, or this big capital, but Barcelona has other kind of museums. Maybe it's a very known, Museo Picasso, Museo Miró, because Miró have born in Barcelona, Picasso learned to paint here in Barcelona. Museo Nacional de Arte de Catalunya is interesting museum. We have the best collection of Romanesque art in the world is in that museum. So that's the most important museum. Maybe there are some contemporaneous one, MACBA. Just talk about that kind of museum and eccentric museum. Okay, that's a hemp museum. It works about talking about hemp, about talking about marijuana, and in a beautiful Art Nouveau villa. So that it worth the visit. So the funeral chariot collection, this is interesting because it's not normal to find this kind of museum.
Well, and much to my surprise, first of all, a lot of these museums, they're all over the city. They're not only in the tourist area.
Yes.
I recently went to the Egyptian Museum of Barcelona. They had some awesome stuff there. I mean, no, it's not Cairo or the Louvre or the British Museum, but they really had an excellent collection from ancient Egypt.
Yes, that's another, the Parfum or Illusion Museum. They are a small museum and collection. And that's, because it's okay. And at the same time, there are a lot of galleries. Maybe have written about galleries. There are a lot of art galleries, especially in this area of Eixample. There are art galleries, some seem specialized in photography. It was the museum are very interested to visit. Of course, they are another festival for museum. That is an international night of museum. That is in May. Okay, that's happening all over the world. I don't know in the United States. I think it's possible, no? Because
I don't think so. I've never heard of it.
I know.
Because
you know that in Europe, in all cities in Europe, in May, they were one Saturday, the first, second Saturday of May, all the museums are open till 2, 3. There are a lot of activities, music, and
it's all free.
It's all free, yes. About theater, okay, most of they are the official installation of venues are very big theaters, but mostly are official and mostly in Catalan. Mostly of that pieces of works, plays are in Catalan. They are, of course, in Spanish, but mostly the official theater is in Catalan. But as you say, the musical are in Spanish. Now it's not Madrid, but most of the Madrid musicals came later to Barcelona.
Billy Elliot is playing here in Barcelona this month.
Yes. As well, Billy Elliot as well as Fame.
And Fame, yeah.
Fame. Yeah. Of course, they are also musicals in Catalan, no? But talking about international plays, it's not so frequent here, no? But depending of the festival, if they are the theater festival, you can find international plays in English and French. But it's possible to find, but you need to be in this, to move around these people, and you will find pieces of works in English or in French or German, no? But especially here, you know, you have gone to American comedians.
Yes, stand-up comedy. Oh, what's his name? Jim, the bear guy that lives in New York and talks about his family. He's on CBS. Jim Gaffigan. He was here a couple of months ago doing stand-up comedy.
Also, this is not theater, but a lot of big name singers are coming to town. So I've seen Beyonce, Lady Gaga, Madonna had come through, John, Elton John, etc. So and the prices are generally pretty good. So they reduce the prices here in Barcelona due to knowing what the salary levels are here in the city and the country.
So following with theater, okay, they are theater festival. It's a Grec, that is in June, July. That is in Montjuic Mountain, Montjuic Hill. They are a scenario in a quarry. I don't remember. It's a pedrera. I don't know how to say that in English. I don't know the word. Okay, there's a theater there in the in that hill, and all the events are there. But it's not only a theater, could be ballet, that could be other music at the same time.
And a lot of those facilities are left over from what was built during the 1992 Olympic Games here in Barcelona. Mm-hmm. So Montjuic is full of a lot of cultural sporting activities on a regular basis.
Montjuic is a mountain, the closest mountain. And it's in Barcelona. It's just really about 15-minute walk from here, from where we are, and it's a small mountain, but it has a lot to discover.
You can spend one day for visiting museums, castles, or there are a lot of things to do. Even you want to go in Montjuic, it's possible to go to the pool. Okay, it was held the Olympics, and there in special day on Sunday is a completely for naturists, for being naked.
I didn't know that.
You have not that? Oh my God! It's not for, okay, on Sunday afternoon, that they can go there to be completely naked.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my God!
Yes, even in winter. So yeah,
wow.
you can go.
It's a public pool.
It's a public pool. You pay and you get in. Okay,
cool.
The follow is a music. Okay. No,
I'm sorry, I
don't worry. Some music. Well, I'm talking a little about opera. They are the famous. The famous theater is Eliseo Opera House. They have a studio programmation, which could be a program. Okay, during the whole year. It's not easy to find a ticket, but it's okay. All the biggest singer in the world comes here, so that's possible. That's a thing opera. The classical is Palau de la Música. This place the venues are Palau de la Música Catalana. It was a visit without music because it's an Art Nouveau masterpiece. This is a UNESCO heritage. Maybe when you go to see a concert there, you don't know if you listen to music or what. or to see the.
I agree. Yeah, it's just a spectacular venue.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Yeah. That is a for classical auditory. It's a modern one. It's a modern venue for music, especially in classical music. It's most specialized in classical music and Gothic churches. Okay, there are a lot of events and concerts in Gothic churches in Gothic area or in Champlain. No, Champlain, no, they are not in Gothic or in Old Town, in general in Old Town. No?
Mm-hmm.
For pop and folk, they are Palau de la Música, the same, but depending, it's mostly for folk music or international music, more than pop. The rest is Palau San Jordi, it's a place where the basketball was held in the Olympics. It's a stadium with 14 people. For the big concert could be Estadio Olympic, that could be for 45,000, or the No Camba could be 100,000. So there are a lot of places for a concert here. And as Rod say, that all these pop rock group when making a European tour comes to Barcelona. They are maybe depending on they are a smaller theater for music too, no? That they are theater and venue for all sizes or all kind of scenario for all kind of music, depending on if they are famous or not. So
if I may just add one note, Jordy, I'm personally a big jazz fan, and I'm surprised every month. I've only been here 2 years, but every month I find a new venue where, especially on a Friday or Saturday night, you've got a jazz group visiting from the UK, from Germany, from New York, from Brazil, lots and lots of jazz clubs, not necessarily to rival Greenwich Village in New York, but I've just been overly surprised and delighted to see so much live jazz music in Barcelona.
Okay. I was just saying, we're talking about music. There are, of course, music festivals. It's a guitar festival, of course. Understand that from people who usually play guitars, okay? A singer with guitar. Primavera Sound is the most international festival in Barcelona because come all these famous pop singers or pop groups are from all over the world. It's mostly for that. Most of the people are coming from Britain, from England, from the UK, even the singers, the group, and the participants are mostly from north of Europe. Sonar is maybe the most prestigious and most important festival in Barcelona. It's an electronic music festival. That is a more specialized in electronic. And I think it's well known if you are moving in that sector. This is one of the best festivals in the world. Festival de Millenni is mostly for local singer, local when it means in Catalan or Spanish. Jazz festival. Corilla is the same, it's more for local. And Barcelona, you understand that, is a focus on Bach music. And Festival de Música Antigua is an old music festival. It's maybe Baroque and so on. I don't know, I don't talk about cinema. Cinema here, we can talk a little bit about cinema. Cinema in Barcelona, first of all, is mostly in Spanish. So, of course, all the Hollywood pieces or plays or works, of course, there are a lot of European too. But the language matter is mostly in Spanish, but you can find a theater that they have in two languages, in original language with subtitle in Spanish or Catalan. So that's that maybe prices is very cheap. It's not so expensive, but depending, weekend is expensive. Week could be 5-6 euros, but the weekend could be 10-12. About prices, we can talk about prices, not about something like this. Sure. Concerts, international concert, Madonna, so on, could be around 100 euros. That depending, there could be 75 to 150. I pay 150 for U2 and 45 too for Rolling Stones, so what matter. Classical music could be cheaper, depending, could be 20 euro, but depending the place you are in the theater. When the Palau de la Music could arrive at 70s, but Gothic churches could be around 10, 15. Free shipping. Auditory could be the same from 10 till 40s. Liceo opera, depending on, doesn't much more expensive. Yeah, could be in the cheaper, could be around 30s till 200, 300 euros. So now theater, normal theater could be 15, 20s euros. The museum, depending if you are going to the most famous museum in Barcelona, could cost 15, 20s, or there are another museum you can pay for 3. So that is a price range for cultural matter in Barcelona. No? Next, well, I'm not talking about for popular festivals, no? So this is a city, it's a Mediterranean city. People love to be outside, outdoor, make a lot of activity outdoor. And when I to show you here, they are the main party in town. That's in September, is La Merced. That is a big party in Barcelona, the 4 or 5 days of celebration. But each neighborhood in Barcelona, the 73 neighborhood, celebrate Festa Mayor. Festa Mayor is a big festival, big party. Usually 2 or 3 days, depending on the neighborhood, depending the economical power of the neighborhood or the famous of the neighborhood. So the most famous is Gracias, I think of August, that take around 1 week. 1 week, and Sans also 1 week. It's a very special because they are contest between all these roads for have the best decoration, no? Decoration, display, and so on. This is interesting. It's a very centenarian.
Very creative.
Very creative, because they are using, in general, they are using recycled products. So, that Sans is have the same level, but it's not so important than Gracia and Sant Antoni, because what's my neighborhood is road neighborhood.
I love
it's at the first part in the year, and we love it. we love it, and we love it, no? So that's place that celebrate your outdoor, there's music, food, folk activity, and fireworks. When you say folk activities in Catalonia or in Barcelona, in general, the folk activities are very interactive. It's not to stay and to see the people. You are part of this of the event, especially in fireworks and fox and so on. So you are part of event. That's another. I'm talking about La Laia. Laia is because La Merced is the saint patron of Barcelona now, but Laia was the former saint patron till 19th century. So now in recent time, they're starting to create a new party, a new celebration from La Laia in February, but it's only 2 days.
Excuse me for interjecting, but any reason for a party, there's one in Barcelona.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. The other big party here could be St. John Eve. I don't know if you agree. It could be the craziest party in the year in Barcelona.
It's a good one.
The good one, okay? That you are bonfire, live music, food, people, are drinking and eating all over the night, and people go to the beach till 2, 3. No, 2, 6, 7. Okay, they can arrive and the people clean the beach. So that much is a big party here. St. John maybe is the best time for being in Barcelona. For if you have a big party, that's a day. That's your day. If not, for me, I usually talk about my friends when people from Canada, United States come to Barcelona. I come to La Merced. So because it's September, it's very quiet. It's not there a lot of tourists. It's more the local people are at home, and the celebration is not. It's a big celebration. It's not a Pamplona with the bullfights and so on, but there are a lot of things to do, and it's absolutely interesting. Especially Rod can talk about his friends. About when they came some years ago.
Yeah, I celebrated my 60th birthday. This is before I moved to Barcelona. I celebrated my 60th birthday here, invited friends from the US and Spain and Europe. And we had a fantastic time over the La Merced weekend. So it's a great time to enjoy Barcelona.
Yes, of course. They have another, it's not a unique, they have another festival, local festival could be the Three Kings. I don't know if I say that in English or
Three Kings.
because they have read a lot of words for that. Three Kings Parade. That is mostly for children.
The Epiphany. Yes.
The Epiphany, yes, it's Epiphany, yes. This let me tell you about the carnival. I don't know what you say.
I said I used to be a good Catholic, not so much anymore. But I would remember these things.
Okay, so the matter is, I was talk about my opinion about Christmas time in Barcelona. You can give your opinion, okay? So for me, you are expected the most spectacular Christmas time, don't come to Barcelona. No,
I agree.
It's not the best because I say the people here in general is not so Catholic. The people even here is angry when the city council light the roads because they say we are losing money here. So that's the opinion of people. People here is not, I think that my opinion is people here have a lot of party during the year. During the year, they say it's not the main party. Okay, you have meeting the family, and so meeting the family, okay, because it's a part of the protocol to be with the family. In other parts of the world, I have seen this a main party, not here, not here in Barcelona.
I think it's worth mentioning. To me, this was a big surprise, even though I had visited Barcelona many times, like Rod, in my life. I lived here briefly as a teenager, but I was very surprised once I settled in here to find out, as far as Catalonia and Barcelona are concerned, there is very much a strict separation of church and state. The church has very little influence here. Yes, everyone knows Spain's a Catholic country and so forth. But for example, I learned last year, most every city in Spain at Christmas time puts up the nativity scene out front of their city hall. Not so in Barcelona. They have a modern art display that they put up for Christmas. So the influence of the church is very little here. And I strongly suspect if you walk into any church in Barcelona on Sunday morning at Mass, you're going to see about this many mostly older widowed women sitting in church.
And yet, let me mention.
Yes. So we're talking about three opinions.
I have a Venezuelan partner, and who's very much into Christmas and the holidays. And so one year we went to a village outside of Barcelona where they reenact the nativity scene. And it was amazing, so it's not just the nativity scene, it's you walk through the village and you see, the animals and the shepherds, and you see, it's a reenactment that is quite impressive. And we loved it. It was really,
well, you're talking what matter because here this nativity scene that in the rest of the Spain in general is very classical, like you can see in Naples in Italy and so on. But in Barcelona is absolutely crazy because it's a modern. Maybe you can see a Pakistani man with a bottle of gas in the middle of the scenario. What fucking is that? So the Catholic people is very angry. If the nativity is classical, the rest of town is absolutely criticism that is a part of the city to be arrive Christmas and talk very bad about Christmas sins.
And yet there are Christmas lights. There is. It's not like many other European, especially Germany. So, Germany's right next door. It's a great time to go to Germany and enjoy the Christmas markets there. If you want a real sense of the holidays.
We were talking about that because I was talking about Three Kings Parade. What's happening is that Barcelona is very quiet in Christmas in general, but in the Three Kings Parade has a beautiful parade. It's a great place to be. You feel all the children. It's around 500,000 people on the road, 3 hours watching seeing all the parade of the cars, to see the children giving the cars for receiving a gift in the night of So that's something which is interesting. For me, the best in winter, in Christmas, is that day.
It's the three.
Therefore,
It's the eve of Three Kings. So,
Right.
So
Hey, guys, for the sake of time, could we get on to some subjects like cost of living?
Okay, so fantastic.
And so on and so forth, what gay life is like in Barcelona?
yeah. Why don't
We can faster.
Why don't we move to that, and then if we have time, we can go back to food and the LGBTI
Okay, go to the
community. So let's go to David's. Do you want to touch on languages?
I'll be quick, Mark. So I know that there's some misnomers about Catalonia, Barcelona in particular, and what language do they speak? How many? Am I going to be okay if I only speak English? So let me just address it. First of all, here in Spain, Spanish, as we know it, is referred to as Castellano from the original Castilian province of Spain some 1,000 years ago. The simple fact is, I strongly recommend, although I had a jump on my Spanish, having visited here many times in my life. I lived with a family that only spoke Spanish and Catalan for 10 months when I was a teenager. And it was enough at least to make me feel comfortable when I arrived. But I immediately enrolled in a Spanish school for full-time, 8 hours a day for 2 weeks. And later, a year ago, I had a private tutor for a few months. So I'm very comfortable speaking the Spanish language here. I highly recommend that. But the fact is that here in Catalonia, as the name implies, the language, one of the two official languages, it's Spanish and Catalan. And Catalan has a long history, over 1,000 years, that this area of Spain spoke that as their first language. It's simply important to know that while it's certainly not necessary that anybody moving here, and I don't speak Catalan, I know a few words, some of them are pretty obscene, but as a polite gesture, very often as you enter a store in some neighborhoods of Barcelona, it's just considered polite to say bon dia instead of buenos dias. But I have only once in my 2 years here encountered somebody who did not speak Spanish, but was born and raised here and only speaks Catalan. It's rare, but it could happen. I don't want to confuse the matter. I don't want to scare anybody, because you do not need to speak Catalan to live here and be happy in the culture. So I've made some notes here. You can look through those. But speaking Spanish it will help you to learn Catalan, but Catalan is a little bit of several different old and some dead languages. And yes, all of the street signs in Barcelona are in Catalan, but in most cases, the word is just a couple of letters that have changed and so forth. It's really not a big issue, okay?
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. But speaking of language, so let's say if I move to Barcelona, not really knowing the Spanish language, how welcoming would I be? Would the people still welcome me? Would I get by?
Mark, the answer is a very vague, it depends. It depends what neighborhood you would be in, who would you be interacting with. If they see a little effort, no different than whether you're in France or Romania or anywhere else, if they see you're making a little effort, they're going to smile and they're going to try to communicate with you. But the simple fact is that here in Barcelona, outside of the main tourist areas, for those of you who have been to Barcelona, I'm referring to La Rambla and down around the port, the marina and so forth. These are the heavy touristic areas. There, you're not going to have a problem. You're going to find somebody, at least in every restaurant, every store, that speaks English. And just ask, does somebody here speak English? But again, I would personally simply, and I know, frankly, a few Americans who've lived here longer than I have, they managed to get by with very little English. But, you know, for example, they have their groceries delivered to their apartment. Most of their friends are Americans. to me, I wanted a very Spanish experience living here. And again, the language schools are cheap. There's lots of them in every neighborhood. And I just found it easy, convenient, and cheap. And I felt that it really was well worth a couple of weeks of my time going to what they refer to as an intensive language schedule for a couple of weeks. It really set me to the point where I was very comfortable in most situations.
And some people may need a little bit more than a couple of weeks, especially if you haven't had a base of learning Spanish like David did.
Sure.
But in my case, I went to Spanish school for a while, stopped, did a little bit of Catalan, went back to Spanish. And then after 3 or 4 years, I decided, I'm just going to coast and use what I have. So
my tips that I mentioned here is, please take a Spanish class, whether you do it there or when you get here or both. And if you must speak English, just make an effort to speak slowly and avoid slang words. Everybody understands yes and no. They may not understand yeah. To use an app on your phone that does live translations, to always speak with a smile. You're going to get a lot more cooperation from people. And again, as I found very easy to do, thanks to Jordy, Rod, same way. We both knew Jordy before we moved here from previous visits. And that is to make friends with Spanish people. They will be patient. I ask them to please correct me when I make a mistake when I'm speaking Spanish. And the vast majority, frankly, of my friends speak at least a little bit of English. So
sorry, I have screwed things up here. So let me get back to the slides.
So my next slide is really about healthcare. And I know it's a topic of great importance to many of you, as it was for me when I moved here. So I'll just start talking.
Good.
And you'll find it.
And
if you want to go back to WhatsApp and just find the link.
No, it's on. It's here.
Okay. So the fact is, it is an obligation to any of you who may pursue a resident visa to move and live here legally and happily. That first visa is valid for a year, but it is a requirement to even apply for the visa that you have a prepaid private health insurance policy. There's a bunch of companies that offer it. Some of them are British, and it even includes AXA, which you probably know is a Swiss insurance company. Okay. And so it's an obligation because in essence, Spain obviously doesn't want you moving to Spain. You got 5 preconditions, you're diabetic, blah, blah. They don't want you becoming a ward of the state a month after you've moved here. However, the good news is, depending on your age and any pre-existing conditions, this private policy will run about $1,200 to $2,400 a year. I'm sure most of you will agree, those of you who are familiar with Medicare, I'm paying a fraction of what I would pay if I were still in California. And the insurance is excellent. No copays, no deductibles for the year. The only drawbacks are you've got to be under age 70 to even qualify to get a new policy. But you can live here so long as you continue to renew that policy. It's good for as long as you may live. There's a short questionnaire you have to take. They mostly want to know about preconditions. There's a short list of 5 or 6 bizarre contagious diseases they want to know that you don't have. But take it from me personally, there is no questions about HIV. It's not on the list of a disqualifying condition. So in addition to that private policy, what you must have, the fact is I've used it mostly for dental coverage. It includes dental, vision, physiotherapy, nutritionists, et cetera, et cetera. The only thing I've used it for mostly is dental visits and some free COVID tests for travel. And the price is based on where you live, meaning what's the cost of healthcare in that neighborhood, your age, and any preconditions. And I think it's also important that you know that the system here is so different. Each of these insurance companies has their own clinics and hospitals. And I would compare it to those of you who may be familiar with an HMO. The HMOs in the US would be more the model of the public insurance here. But the private insurance is a premium, of course. So there's a number of companies listed here, but there's a bunch of them, and you can find, and they all provide English language websites, English language nurses, doctors in the hospitals, and so forth. But it's excellent quality of healthcare. Okay. As far as the public system is concerned, I'd want to be careful that I don't mislead anybody to think that you'll automatically be covered, because you're not. It's just a little trickier. Fundamentally, it depends on the province that you live in, but here in Catalonia, for example, you can qualify by paying a small stipend when you first move here, or if you've been here and renewed your visa in some cases, then you qualify for the free healthcare. But it's also important to know that you or anybody you know with HIV, again, it depends on what province, but here in Catalonia, if you have HIV, even as a newcomer to Spain, you are completely covered for all healthcare services and medications for free by enrolling in the public healthcare system.
After the first 3 months.
Yes, after 3 months. And my best resource for a lot of this information was the Gay Center, or LGBTQI as it's known here. They have a huge 3-story building in Barcelona. I mean, it's an incredible group of people who are here to help anybody with HIV or AIDS. I mean, all my meds are free, my blood tests, my doctors, my nursing care, all that stuff is completely covered. But I just want to be careful that everybody doesn't think immediately you're going to have both private and public health care. The public health care, as I say, is more closely to the model with an HMO. Sometimes I have to wait 15 or 20 minutes in line for my turn to see the nurse, to get a blood test, whatever. But all of the healthcare, especially in Barcelona, is renowned across Europe. There are French and Germans that come to Barcelona for healthcare. One odd thing, not that it should matter to anybody, I've been surprised. Most all the doctors that I've seen since I got here are women. It's just, to me, it's just a little strange. But anyway, the qualification can be a little complicated. Do your homework, depending on if you're really considering moving to Barcelona, or in Valencia, it might be something different, or in Malaga or Madrid. I'm not familiar with those regions to be very specific about what those coverage options are there. But the healthcare is excellent, and I could not be happier with the care that I get here.
And just to add something, yes, Mark.
I'm sorry, I was just looking in the chat. There were two questions in the chat. Actually, one question asked by 2 people. What if you're over 70? That was asked by David and George.
I believe, but I'm not positive. If you're over 70, consider moving here. I suspect that one or more of these private insurers, I just went to the one that a couple of Americans living here recommended to me. I suspect you can get coverage, but you're going to need to pursue that before you start the visa process to make sure you don't waste your time or money, because you have to prepay at least 3 months of coverage for them to give you a note to attach to your visa application to say, this person is covered effective X date. You'll just pay more. Again, the price is based on your age, preconditions, and specifically where you intend to live when you get here.
When I applied, as a federal worker, I had Blue Cross Blue Shield federal, and that was the insurance that I used to apply. I'll get into this when we talk about applying for a visa. But in the case of the Washington, D.C. Spanish consulate, they accepted that because I'm covered in Spain, I'm covered throughout the world. And so for the first 5 years, I used Blue Cross Blue Shield. It did have co-pays, but the letter never talked about that, and they never asked. And I never even knew that co-pays, that you shouldn't have an insurance with co-pays. But that's the insurance I use for the first 5 years.
And in my case, I worked through the Spanish consulate in Los Angeles. They were very particular, wanted to see my policy from Sanitas to say very specifically, no copays, no deductibles.
Yeah, no, and for me, it was just a letter that Blue Cross Blue Shield gave me, and that was translated into Spanish. So it's different in a different consulates, and I'll get into that in a sec. Okay.
Okay.
There's another question from David. If you're an EU citizen, do you still need to have private insurance?
I can't address that. I don't know.
If you're an EU citizen, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
So I believe you are, as an EU citizen, you can live anywhere in the European Union. But we're not at all.
All I can tell you is that I know very specifically, I do have a couple of friends in the UK and Germany, and I understood from them that they had to pay a slightly higher amount for their German public health care to be valid and accepted at a hospital here in Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
But it was nominal. But more than that, I just don't know enough. I don't want to lead someone.
What I say is, if you are EU citizen, you have urgencies, okay, so for free, they are no problem. And all the products or the medic products, okay, that are, they can give you, you can go to your center, to your hospital center, and they give you the receipt, okay, we give you all the medicine.
And
but I don't know exactly who can solve if you need to go to be checked for one physician. Have no idea about
I know it's valid, but there may be an additional cost involved depending on what country in the EU, how urgent is the need when they're here in Spain, et cetera. But I know there are reciprocal agreements between the EU countries.
Yes, they are. So the matter is to try to find if they are possible to work here, they will have the local card, okay, the local health card. But if you have international, if you have a European or Italian, something like that, they will give you the medicines. They will give you medicines. Yeah. I don't know, maybe urgencies, no problem. In urgencies, you don't pay nothing.
Right.
But about you need to read test or any analytic, have no idea about it.
No. Sorry.
Any other questions on healthcare, Mark, that you see?
No, I think that it was all from the chat.
Okay, so let's, I guess we'll move on to cost of living. So, so this is information that comes from this website, numbeo.com. And it gives kind of an average view of what costs are like living in Barcelona. So what you'll see here, this is all in euros, so you'll multiply this at the current rate of $1.17 to the euro. But basically, the cost of living here is actually really cheap. I came here with the idea that I would spend about what I spent in Washington, D.C. area. And I was really surprised at how far my money went living here in Barcelona. Now, what I personally did is I purchased my piso, my apartment, in cash. And so I didn't have a mortgage, I didn't have rent. And of course that reduced my expenses dramatically, but still I have a government pension, I have Social Security, and I live very, very comfortably on those two things here in Barcelona with money to spare. Living in Barcelona, it is one of the most expensive cities in Spain, but Barcelona is probably one of the cheapest countries in the rest of Europe. It's not when you consider Paris and London and
Vienna.
Rome and Vienna, you know, they're much more expensive than here in Barcelona. So here you can see the various costs, and I put here on the right because we showed the slide. We met this week and went through the slides, and both David and Jordy were looking at these. So where do these numbers come from? And so I went back and I pulled that it does come from many different governmental and statistical sources. So it is an average, but to get a 3-bedroom apartment average in the city center of Barcelona would cost around 1,500, 1,600 euros. So that could be, you know, it can vary from there, upper or lower. And then if you're out of the city center, it's less. And then if you were to buy, this is by square meters, these would be the numbers. I didn't mention this in the beginning, but at the very end of the slides, we're going to give you the link to these slides. You can go over these as much as you desire, and because there's a lot of information in these slides that you might be interested in.
I feel compelled, Rod, only to mention the obvious here that we've all heard our whole lives when it comes to real estate. I would just caution with these numbers, because I know what I pay, and it's a lot more than what's on this slide. It's location, location, location. It's the neighborhood you're in, how far away, how close is public transportation, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So, but these are within a reasonable expectation, from my opinion. But then I happen, like Rod does, to live in 2 of the best neighborhoods in Barcelona.
Right. And a 3-bedroom
small bedroom
can be very small bedrooms. And if you looked at, if you saw David's place, you would understand why his is more expensive. It's a beautiful apartment.
Thank you.
So, so let me just move on. So cost of living and taxes, and this is an important point. The first thing to know is that there is a tax treaty between Spain and the US to avoid double taxation. And the important part is where the financial instruments are similarly defined. So for most of us, that we would have similar financial instruments. And that includes things like an IRA, not a Roth IRA, an IRA or a 401k. And capital gains and things, those type of things have similar terms in the US and Spain. So what this means is that generally you're going to pay more taxes in Spain than in the US. But whatever you pay in tax in Spain, it's that, or whatever you pay in tax in the US, in my case, and in most cases for those who are retirees, you'll probably submit your US taxes first and then your Spanish taxes later. US taxes are due in mid-April. Spanish taxes are due at the end of June. So you'll pay your American tax, and then you'll take that 1040 and you'll present it to your accountant here, and those numbers will generally be deducted from the amount of remaining tax that you would have to pay in Spain. So you're paying because you are a Spanish resident. Definition of a Spanish resident is that you have lived in Spain for more than 183 days. And so if you are here less than 183 days, you're not a Spanish resident, you generally won't pay tax at all unless you own Spanish property. So I won't go into that. As a resident, you're taxed on your worldwide income, just like you are in the US. So you are taxed on your earnings for the entire year. This is an important point because I came with the misconception that just like when you move from one state to another in the US, you pay a partial tax year. In Spain, it's not that way. I moved here in March, and in January, I still had a month left of working at my federal agency, and with bonuses and for, that I got at the end of the year and bonuses for leaving, I earned a lot of money in that last month. And I was surprised to find out that all that money that I earned before I even moved to Spain was subject to Spanish taxes. So I would recommend in the first year that you plan on moving here after July 3rd or so.
Right.
So then you become, you're a non-resident for that first year. You don't have to pay Spanish taxes, and you have time to kind of figure taxes out. You don't have to worry about it until the end of the next year or the beginning of the following, the year after the next full year that you're here to find an accountant and to do your taxes. So the warning I have here is the timing of your move, also in selling property and Roth IRAs. So Roth IRAs is one of those instruments that is not defined here in Spain. So all that tax savings that you have in your Roth IRA, if you were to withdraw those once you're in Spain, it's not certain that you're going to enjoy those tax benefits that you enjoy in the US. So in my particular case, I just had this sneaky feeling. I didn't know for sure. And I cashed out my Roth IRA the prior year that I moved to Spain. And I used that to buy my part of that to buy my property here in Spain. So whether so that's just something to keep in mind. Also, if you still have property in the US and you eventually sell it while you're a resident in Spain, those capital gains, and David is in this situation.
I'm about to be subject to that. I still have my house in California, but I'm selling it early next year. And I've already been warned by Rod and by the tax consultants that we both happen to use. Be prepared. The good news is I won't be subject to capital gains in the US because of some changes in the tax laws for the profit that I'll make on selling my home, but the Spanish will get me
right
on all the capital gains for selling the house.
So just fair warning.
One other thing worth mentioning, Rod, I just think for planning purposes, in my particular case, I was told to expect that my total tax bill would be between the high teens and 30%, depending on my income and so forth. But again, just to reiterate the important point Rod made. So yeah, when the Spanish tax authorities told me what my tax bill was, I about fell over until they told me, well, deduct what you've already paid to the IRS for last year's tax bill. And it became more like 9–10% of my income to the Spanish tax authorities after I paid the IRS.
And in my case, and going along with what David has said, I always look at paying taxes here in Spain like paying my state taxes in the US. So yeah. in my case, I don't pay state taxes in the US. I moved from Virginia, and here's another little warning about, and I didn't put this in a slide, but basically you may want to think about if you're going to move to Europe, to make yourself a legal resident of a state that does not have income tax. So there are about 7 states right now that have that, and by doing that, you don't have to worry about paying income tax in the state if you don't own property there. So, but in my case, I only pay federal taxes, and basically the tax I pay in Spain is less than what I would have paid in Virginia. So. Also, the good news is that if you do have a government pension, I'm not talking about Social Security. Social Security is taxed here because they have Social Security here. They treat you here just like they would treat any Spanish citizen. So Spanish citizens that are government workers do not get taxed on their government pensions. So I do not get taxed on the pension I receive from the federal government. If you worked for a state government, If you work for a municipality, I believe all those pensions are covered because, or if you worked, or if you receive a pension from the military, all that money is not taxed in Spain because you worked and received that pension as under as a government worker.
One other piece of good news is, so as Rod said, you basically file your taxes here in June.
Mm-hmm.
The first 60% of what you owe is due in July, and the other 40% isn't due until November. It's next week, actually.
So they split it in, they can split it into two payments for the following year. There's another type of tax here in Spain called wealth tax or patrimonio. And so this applies to worldwide assets. And there are many categories, but the main three categories are your bank accounts, your tax investments, and your taxable investments and real estate. So you add all that together, and depending upon what autonomous community that you're living in, so Catalonia is considered an autonomous community. Andalusia is a autonomous community. Madrid community is an autonomous community. And each of those may have a different threshold of when it starts getting taxed. So in Catalonia, unfortunately, it's the lowest threshold. So after 500,000 euros, and that can change because the exchange rate changes each year or each day. But basically 500,000 euros, then a wealth tax is applied, and it's adding up all the money that you have in your bank accounts, your real estate value, and your taxable investments. Your IRAs, your Roth IRAs, your 401ks are not counted in that wealth tax. So until you withdraw your money from those IRAs, 401ks, it does not get taxed. And when you do withdraw, it just becomes ordinary income tax, and it gets added to whatever you earn for that year. So some people decide to move to Madrid because, or the Madrid area, because it collects no wealth tax. That's a decision they made. They're a pretty wealthy community and apparently have no need for a wealth tax. So, and I have friends that moved there for that specific reason.
I just want to add to what Rod has shared with everybody. I hope that we haven't scared anybody away, because I personally, while there are some complications here, you know, thanks to Rod, he pointed me in the direction of a great tax accountant who speaks English here in Barcelona, because there's two things. As good as my Spanish might be, when it comes to my money and my healthcare, I want to speak English with somebody. And this accountant happens to speak English. But my point is, in the end, when all was said and done, and she said, here's how much you owe, as far as I'm concerned, when you weigh the cost of healthcare and a lot of other things, it's a small price to pay, and a much smaller price than I would pay if I were still in California for the life that I live here.
Which is the good life.
Yes.
Anyway, this really doesn't come under cost of living, but I wanted to stick this in here because I know it's important to talk about, and that's crime, the feeling of safety in Spain in general and in Barcelona in particular. Spain has as a whole has a very low crime rate when you compare it to other countries in the world. And the safety index is very high. When you're taking the average of Spain and Barcelona, of course, Spain is going to be, the crime index is going to be lower, and the safety index is going to be higher than Barcelona as a cosmopolitan city, and the second largest city in Spain. So, but if you look at the safety in Barcelona, walking alone during the day, it's high. The safety index is high, and it's very high in all of Spain. Walking alone during night, it's considered moderate, and in Spain, it's considered high. personally, you know, I can walk in the city, pretty much anywhere in the city that I go to, holding hands with my partner anywhere, in the metro, on the bus, wherever I am. That there's no, there's no sense of safety issues. That's not to say that there's no gay bashing that has occurred. A lot of times it occurs with tourists seeing gay couples, or a person who is they consider to be gay, but it doesn't happen often. It took me about 3 months to not look over my shoulder at night walking in the streets of Barcelona, and to feel that I don't need to be concerned about my safety. Of course, one needs to be aware. But the way I would feel walking in DC at night compared to walking on the streets of Barcelona is very different. Neighborhoods are different, and there are some neighborhoods that are less safe than others in Barcelona. But as a whole, it's especially living in a major metropolitan city in the US, it feels very safe.
And I would echo that. I've lived here 2 years, visited numerous times before that. While yes, Barcelona has this worldwide reputation for pickpockets, I would guess 95% of that happens on the Ramblas, which
Or
is
in gay area, or in gay area.
I have never had anything bad happen to me. I've never seen it happening to somebody else, nor do I know anybody among my circle of friends here that, at least in the 2 years I've been here, that has had an incident, a serious incident of crime.
Yeah. So I won't go into some stories, but I do know, and it's not just targeted toward expats or to tourists.
No.
I mean, crime, especially pickpocketing and things like that, can happen to anyone. Especially on metro can be a place where that can happen. But I won't go into those stories now. So, but anyway, one just needs to be alert and be careful with your possessions, your belongings.
As you would anywhere else.
Right. So visa and process requirements. Were there any questions on cost of living, Mark, that you can see?
Taxes. No, or taxes talking.
Yeah,
tax.
there was,
Or safety.
let's see, there was a couple of questions. Let's go back. Is there racial discrimination?
No.
In general, there is very little racism. There is race. I mean, to say that it doesn't exist would be false. But a lot of times that is more having a Venezuelan partner and friends of his. There can be a sense of a little bit of prejudice between Spaniards and Latin Americans, but that's not general. It just can happen in particular occasions, and it's nothing gross. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
So, but those kinds of differences can occur.
Okay. There was actually an earlier question by John, not on crime, but how long does it take to get to other major European cities, such as London and Rome?
Yeah, we'll address that.
Next slide.
Just a little bit later. So,
okay.
Good question. Okay.
And there's also another one I see. Hold on one moment. I'm experiencing a little lag. Sense of the subway connection, outer suburban neighborhoods that might be more affordable for housing, ones to look at or avoid.
Okay, so public transportation is excellent in Spain in general, and in Barcelona and Catalonia in particular. So the ability to live outside of the city and be able to get into the city easily and rapidly is really good and not expensive. And if you're over 60 and you use the national train system called Renfe, you have reduced prices.
Like 50%. I'm
right.
getting that benefit myself.
Right. So excellent public transport system.
During the whole day or
Day
even at night.
and even at night. And when trains aren't running, buses are running. So
they run until 1 a.m. during the week, and on Fridays, and I'm not sure about Saturdays, they run all night.
Okay.
And just to give you, put things in context, Mark, there are a lot of people who live not just in a suburb of Barcelona, but these are different municipalities outside of the city limit that can still easily be here in the center of the city in 30 minutes or less by train.
Great. Another question I have goes back to healthcare. You mentioned using Blue Cross Blue Shield as a federal employee, that it's covered for you for your health insurance. Did Blue Cross give you a letter certifying that?
yes, you just call them and ask them to write a letter. I asked them specifically to mention Spain in the letter, you know, that that I'm covered for my health costs in Barcelona or in Spain. So again, as David pointed out, some consulates are much more exacting and much more demanding in terms of specifics than the Washington DC consulate. I think is probably the best consulate to go to if you live in the states that it covers, because
you don't have that option if you live on the West Coast. You have to use the consulate in Los Angeles.
Right. So they may have a problem with Blue Cross Blue Shield because of co-pays. But yes, it was just getting a single one-page letter about health insurance through Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome. So visa requirements. So in the first year, in the initial visa, as you know, an American passport without applying for a visa, you can visit any Schengen country in Europe and for a maximum of 3 months. So if you're not, I would highly recommend, if you don't know Barcelona very well, or if you're interested in moving to Spain, to visit often. If you can work it out, try to spend a month or come a few times, check out a few different cities, and then a city that you might be really interested in, you know, spend a month there if at all possible. That's what I did. And that helped a lot in getting below the tourist speak and the tourist way of living in a city that you come normally as a tourist. And then once you're ready to make this decision to move, you would apply for a residency visa or a non-lucrative visa at the Spanish consulate assigned to your home state. So here are the 9 Spanish consulates in the US, and that includes Puerto Rico. And so depending upon what state you live in, you have to apply to that particular consulate. I looked at these various different consulates, not all of them, and they all have, what's interesting and kind of unnerving for me initially is that every consulate has their own requirements of what you need to move to Spain. So it's the luck of the draw. So you'll just have to work with the consulate that your state is associated with. What they will ask for is what your passive income or savings is. Passive income would be a pension or rental income that you receive, or of course, savings in a bank. Or it could be your 401k, which you have access to and you can use at any time. You also need a medical certificate, which basically means a doctor's letter. So in this case, this is an example of a doctor's letter. My doctor's letter was 2 lines from my doctor, and that was accepted again by the Washington, D.C. consulate. So plug in for Washington, D.C. They're very easy to work with. But you can see the types of things they're looking for. You know, you don't have a drug addiction, you don't have mental illness, things that are associated with the health regulation, international health regulations of 2005. So, so you'll need something like this. Let's see if I can go back. Oh boy, there we go. Okay. And you'll need to get a certification of no criminal record with an apostle. Apostle is an international certification that is honored between nations. And so if you lived in the same state for the last 5 years, the easiest thing is to go through your state agency that deals with giving this certification of no criminal record and with getting an apostle for that. If you have not lived in your state for the last 5 years, you would go through the FBI to get that certification. And then as David thoroughly covered, you would need medical insurance coverage in Spain. Some of the things you need to be aware of, you are not allowed to work remotely from Spain. People will do that, but it's officially not allowed. So you don't want to put on your application that your income is going to be coming from the work that you're going to be doing in Spain remotely. So that's an obvious. Some consulates require that you not have a home mortgage, that you have insurance without any co-pays, as was mentioned before, or deductibles, or that you would need proof of accommodation in Spain before you go to Spain. So none of those were things that the Washington, D.C. consulate required of me.
But all of those things were required of me in Los Angeles.
Right.
So just 2 quick points. First of all, this is all incredibly accurate. It all applied to my process through LA. But I hope this doesn't scare anybody either, because in my case, at least the LA consulate had at least 15 pages of instructions on each one of these, what to do, where it needs to come from. Here's a sample of what the document should look like, etc. And I was concerned because I had a mortgage when I moved here on my home in California. I simply sent an email to the consulate. I got a response in a couple hours. I said, here's my pension amount, here's my Social Security, here's how much money I have in the bank. They said, Mr. Warren, don't worry about it. You'll be just fine. So it said in the document that they didn't look kindly upon mortgages or any outstanding loans that you may have, but at least in my case, it was a non-issue.
Okay, just a last question. I don't know if any people here in our group here now have some Spanish passport, because if you want to return to Spain, there are formula the same, it's document for inmigrante retornado. That means the Spanish government will will help you to return to Spain with a cheaper air tickets. You want to come with container for free. They have a lot of possibilities to return to Spain very cheap, but it's depending if someone of the group have a Spanish passport, maybe can talk to me and I will give you all the information.
Thanks, Jordy.
Yeah, so that'd be great if you are a Spanish citizen, then you have those advantages. So this is the initial visa, but you need to think about long-term. And so this next slide talks about, or when I get there, the long view of visa, of having a visa. So your first visa is for only 1 year, and it's considered temporary. You have a temporary residency visa. You can renew that temporary visa for a 2-year period, a maximum of 2 times. So that means that as a temporary residency visa, you have your first year, and then you renew it once for 2 more years. You renew it again for 2 more years, a total of 5 years as a temporary visa. In the renewal process, you would need to re-verify your income and your health insurance. And you need to submit what your length of time was in Spain. And they do that by reviewing your passport. So you'll give them a full copy of every page on your passport. And you must be in Spain for a minimum of 183 days in a calendar year. That's really important. So I know a couple, an American couple who lived here in Barcelona. And, like many people who move to Spain, they want to travel in other areas. If you travel within the EU, it's not going to be an issue because your passport is not stamped from country to country. Right. But if you travel outside of the EU, that's when the time starts being counted as to the number of days that you are outside of Spain. If you overextend yourself more than 183 days, you are not considered a Spanish citizen. You lose your right, or not your right, you lose the ability to renew your visa, and you need to go home. So this American couple unfortunately got that news. They did go home. They renewed again. They didn't renew again. From Waco, Texas, they did apply for, again, starting from scratch, a 1-year visa, and came back and started off again from ground zero. So that's one thing you need to keep in mind is traveling when you're living here in Spain. After those first 5 years, you then apply, and this is the only option for you. You apply for a long duration, or what's called a long duration visa, or what is informally called a permanent visa. Again, they'll re-verify your income and health insurance, and they'll verify the length of time in Spain. So in this case, it's not only that you have to, in that last 2 years, you have to have been in Spain for at least 183 days in each of those years. In the last 5 years, you can't be out of the country for more than 10 months, or else you are not eligible for a permanent or long duration visa. So if you're thinking about the possibility that this is your forever home, then you need to think about that. If you think about spending a few years in Spain and then moving somewhere else, then you don't need to be worried about those time limits. And then once you have a long duration visa, you renew that every 5 years. But at that point in time, they don't check your income or health insurance, because once you get a long-term visa, first of all, you're treated in almost every way as a Spanish citizen, except for the fact that you can't vote. But other than that, you are a Spanish citizen, but they do review the amount of time that you've spent in Spain for those last 5 years, and it can't be longer than 12 months. So those are, again, the things to keep in mind to stay in Spain for the long term. Any questions, Mark, on visa requirements?
Yeah, let me just check the chat. I know there were some questions. I don't know, it might have been some older questions, if you want to take those now.
Sure.
If you could choose 3 places to investigate closely, apart from Madrid and Barcelona, where would you recommend? Main criteria is warm and near the sea with a thriving, mature gay community.
Great. Valencia.
Right. So Valencia would be
the first one that would come to my mind. And I know a lot of American gay men who live there.
So Valencia is the third largest city in Spain. It's
Malaga.
right, and then the other one would be Malaga. But anyway, Valencia is a beautiful city. You can really tell the difference in terms of size. So if you're not interested in a very, very large city, or you want a city environment but not as large and as massive as Barcelona, Valencia would be beautiful, and it's on the beach. Malaga is a fantastic area that I've thought about a few times myself, because it is very, very gay friendly. Lots of a huge gay environment. It's a beautiful city, small, but really, really clean. And I was just there this summer, and the weather I think is excellent. It has a microenvironment where you do have hot days, but it can be very, very comfortable. And it's further south, so you do have a little bit longer of a warmer season than you would in Barcelona. And then
maybe it could be Mallorca, or could be Mallorca, or could be Gran Canaria, or depending you want to live in Iceland.
Right. So then if you're living out, if you want to, there are the Balearic Islands in the Mediterranean. Mallorca is the largest of those islands, and it's also, there's a thriving, it's a wonderful island, and then but it's in the Mediterranean. It's so you're going to have the seasons more or less as what you would have in Barcelona, and then also you have the Canary Islands in Gran Canaria, where you're in the Atlantic, much further south. And it's more like moving to Florida in that sense.
Yeah, something like that. So, yes.
Yeah, I would say it's laid back, very laid back. Let me stress, very laid back. Shorts and sandals all year. And for us Americans, incredibly cheap. So don't think Hawaii, think a rural place. Don't even think Fort Lauderdale, but really cheap accommodations. It's temperate all year round. I'm going again next week. To me personally, it's a place to visit. I wouldn't want to live there, but it's a small island with a thriving gay community.
Right.
There was one other question that was missed earlier by David. How is your government pension direct deposited? Is it a US bank or a Spanish bank?
That's a great question, and you have the option. I still have mine deposited into Bank of America, and I do periodic money transfers back and forth, but I went and spoke in person with Social Security. They will deposit it, and they will even deposit it in euros to my Spanish account. I may make that decision in the coming months for some reasons, but I still have my money go into Bank of America from both of my pensions. And as I said, I just do periodic transfers as I need it here.
And how do you do those transfers?
There's you would have probably no way of knowing this in the US. I didn't discover it till I started talking to friends here, but there's a service. They've just changed their name from TransferWise to Wise. And I pay an average when I transfer a few $1,000s, it's less than $10 to make the transfer. So it eliminates the pressure of, well, gee, let me wait until I have enough money to transfer to make it worth it if you're paying $100 for a transfer. It's a few dollars and it's quick. There's an app. They're consistently, the money moves in the same business day, really painless and easy.
Yeah, I've just started using Wise this year, and it's the exchange rates are pretty much as low as it can get, but there is a fee, but it's overall it's pretty cheap, and as David said, you do it in the morning and your money's in the bank that afternoon.
Yeah.
So I have my Social Security pension goes to my U.S. bank,
yeah,
but my government pension that I receive goes directly into my Spanish bank, and you do that. You make that arrangement through the U.S. Embassy, and those exchange rates are excellent. So you can't get any cheaper than that, with no fees at all.
And speaking of the U.S. Embassy, what I found out that I didn't know till I moved here, but they have a whole section at the embassy in Madrid that do nothing but support Americans in Spain with regard to Social Security, any government pensions, healthcare, if you're under the federal healthcare, any kind of government federal benefits that you're entitled to. You don't have to deal with somebody in Washington, D.C. or in your hometown. And they've been very responsive the few times I've connected them. I had some issues with Social Security payments for a couple of months, and they handled it quickly and easily. Okay.
Any other questions?
All right, we're at the point of, I think, we just simply we've given you a lot of detail, money, travel, and so forth. We just wanted to share our thoughts about why we are happy and know that we made the best decision that I've ever made in my life to move here. And I'll start by just telling you what makes me happy here. And for the moment, I won't mention my Christian. But I think first and foremost for me, I've always counted my friends as my family. I don't have a large extended family by blood. And again, like Rod, I was fortunate enough to meet Jordy on a previous visit to Barcelona. And so the first week I was here, we had lunch, and he has subsequently introduced me to people who, again, my circle of friends has grown and grown and grown. By leaps and bounds. I've been here 2 years, and just at the risk of embarrassing Jordy, but the nature of this Spanish people, and I'm not just talking about those that were born and raised here, but so many that have moved here from Latin America or even other countries in Europe. But I've just found it so easy to make lifelong friends. In the 2 years I've been here, I can count probably 15 or 20 gay men in Barcelona that are better friends than I had living almost 15 years in California. They're sincere, they're honest, they want your company, they want to know more about you. And in our case, an added benefit is that Jordy happens to be very involved, if not in a leadership position, with several groups like hiking, like cultural events, art exhibitions opening, those kinds of things. There's another group that we meet for dinner every Wednesday night. Again, these are all optional, but lots of activities where I've had an incredible opportunity to meet some really high quality individuals. The other thing is just that there's always something to do socially. The fact is, I've read this expression somewhere, but I was guilty of it for much of my career in the United States and had a lot of friends who still are. And that is a lot of Americans we all know, especially those that are career driven and those that are still working, that they live to work. They work long hours, they move a lot, they're always chasing the almighty dollar. Again, I was guilty of it. It's the opposite here. People here work to live. Many of them work the minimum they have to have just enough money to go out with friends and family 3 or 4 nights a week. Everything is laid back. Most of their life is outside, away from their apartments, in a sidewalk cafe or in the mountains, at the beaches. People spend a lot more time socially away from their homes. They don't want to be sitting at home watching TV every night. Someone asked about flights. Another thing is travel is a passion of mine. It still is. And it is so easy, so cheap, and so frequent, especially to travel in Western Europe. I just booked a flight. I'm going to Edinburgh for Christmas. It was about $130 round trip from Barcelona. That's about a 2.5-hour flight. You can see, but traveling to London, Paris, Rome, Lisbon, Berlin, those are all hour and a half flight. $125 round trip, and not necessarily, yeah, there's lots of low cost airlines here, but what's happened is there's such strong business for them that the likes of Iberia and Lufthansa and British Airways match those prices. I routinely fly on either British Airways or Lufthansa, good service, on time, $100, $150 round trip to most of Western Europe. You're probably already familiar with trains. There are really fast trains, and a recent phenomenon in Spain is that there are now low-cost fast trains that are giving the Spanish National Railway and the French National Way a run for their money. When they started 6 or whatever months ago, they were running fast trains between Barcelona and Madrid for like €20 round trip. It's not that cheap now, more like, as I put here, about 70. Or an 2.5 hours to Madrid, which is more like a 6-hour drive if you went by car, 8 hours to Paris for about $120 or so round trip. Worth mentioning again, the highways, if you do, in our case, none of us, you don't own a car, do you?
No, but
It's kind of a ridiculous proposition to own a car in Barcelona, more savings, by the way. Between parking, insurance, it just doesn't make sense given the excellent public transportation. But we all rent cars from time to time, go to the mountain, go wherever, relatively cheap. And the highways coming from California, it puts California to shame. The highways here are well maintained, they're modern, they're fast, and there's a wonderful network all over Spain and into the rest of Europe.
And they just removed tolls in Catalonia.
No more tolls,
so no more tolls.
Catalonia. So that makes my life very happy that at least once a month, if I'm not away to some other destination in Spain, I'm off to visit friends in Germany or Portugal or the UK, whatever. I love the fact that the weather, my word is temperate. It's never too hot nor too cold, 12 months out of the year. I'm a big history buff. There's an incredible, Jordy mentioned the Roman walls, which still exist in parts of Barcelona, but there are also just some amazing medieval towns within a couple of hours of here that including any of you that happen to be Game of Thrones fans, one whole season of Game of Thrones was filmed in Girona, which looks like it did in the 12th century, pretty much. Again, we've talked about very strong gay community and as well a very international city. You'll see cultures, you'll hear 25 different languages just walking down La Rambla. And those things are very important to me. And the fact that I'm as busy as time will allow me to be between beaches and hikes and going to the mountains, camping, all those things are nearby. And we haven't even talked about food and wine, and we won't, but only to say, again, I'm going to guess, other than, well, I'm not going to talk about New York City, but even where I lived in California, I find going out to eat in a restaurant here 30 to 50% cheaper. And the food is excellent. It's fresh. You won't find a lot of preservatives in any of the food that you're served here. And there's places for every budget, whether you want to spend $12 on dinner or $212. There's restaurants of every ethnic amount of food you could possibly want.
I think David really covers it all. So I don't really have much to add, but I totally agree with what he said. So there is a slide here that just shows where Barcelona is compared.
We haven't even talked about Sitges.
The rest of Europe.
That's right.
And I just lost that. But anyway, let's do this slide again. Just because I spent time getting this to work.
Looks great.
Yeah, so anyway, this is, you can see Barcelona is on the eastern edge of Spain. And as you can tell, it's very close to all these areas. I had a partner, an American partner who had a job in Kiev, I would fly there 3.5 hours away. That's one of the furthest places I would say in this.
Maybe it's a 4 hours to Moscow.
Yeah,
That's
4 hours.
For
Right.
Eastern Europe. That's
2.5 hours to Istanbul. So anyway, it's just it's a great area to as a place to travel to other areas of Europe and So and then finally, I just want to give you some resources at the very bottom, I wrote a blog in the first 3 years that I lived here, rodandbcn.blogspot.com. That's my little plug from 2014 to 2017. And some people have really, it was helpful for them because I was just sharing my experiences as I began to get settled in the city and to feel my way. I'm gonna, here is the link, if I can, what I'm gonna do is copy this into the chat box so that you can copy this and see these slides. Whoops, whenever you like. I hope I got that.
No,
I didn't. So let me go back.
but it is command.
There we go.
There.
Command. You do that. Do the control. I don't know Mac. Okay, so go to the chat. Right up there. And just put that into the message. And hit enter. Okay, so that's the link for these slides. You have view access to be able to for that information and to just review the slides and get the information that we briefly went over. Mark, are there any other questions that you see in the chat, or if others have any questions they want to ask now?
There are some chat questions, but let's see. Hold on. Can you mention what's going on with electricity prices? I hear it changes daily.
Oh, well, yeah.
You're going to take that one, Rod.
I don't know what to say. Compared to the rest of Europe, electricity prices in Spain are the highest. I won't go into the reasons why, because I'm not fully sure I understand all of it.
I don't either.
But in general, I would say that there's a greater consciousness here about energy savings, and so whether it's electricity or gas, but in terms of my 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment, my electricity prices probably average to being a little less than $100 a month, $100 a month. So that varies, of course, with when it gets very cold, it gets very hot. So it's not wildly off the scale.
And it's still cheaper than what we were paying in the US, but it's more than we wish it were, obviously. I have a slightly larger apartment. Yeah, mine's $100 more or less in the winter. I like to run the AC in the summer, and it's $200 a month. Next.
Okay. Next question is, can you address the later years? When we age on, how are the cost and quality of assisted living in nursing homes? We have no children will be monitoring us.
David, do you?
Well, I'll give you my comments. I first of all, Sanitas, my private insurance, as well as I would be entitled to the public insurance. They also operate what are called residences here. Those are for the aged, where everything from what you would call assisted living to full-time 24-hour care for more serious health issues. And I can only say that this area is known for being, I think, just behind Japan. They have typically the oldest living, what's the right phrase? Expected life expectancy for women in particular. Now that doesn't.
Spain is the second in the world, I think.
Yeah, behind Japan.
Behind Japan, yes.
And a lot of it's diet and so forth. But the point is that
in spite of the amount of smoking that
yeah, good point. Yeah. But no, it's true. And there's no cultural issues, meaning that an older person is less of a person. There's a lot of respect for older people. And in my neighborhood as well, I know 2 or 3 different residences. And if I go out shopping at 10 or 11 in the morning, you're going to see a lot of them with their walkers. You're going to see a lot of them wheelchairs, but they get out, they're active. There's lots of social programs for them and so forth. So that's all I know, is that life is good at any age.
And I would say that living in Barcelona, it is a very intergenerational community.
Yeah.
So, you know, the way, if you've been here before or in many other European cities, you have your stores at the first level, and then you have your residences above that. And you know, you'll see on any given street, you know, all range types. You'll see people that are very, very old, you know, walking with a cane, as David said, and you'll see young children. It's you know, you don't see that. I don't see that. I didn't see that in living in the US as much. Yeah. We tend to, you know, isolate segregate those various age groups.
I mean, in my apartment building that I just moved into a couple of months ago after living in a smaller one the first couple of years here, but I'm in what many jokingly refer to as the gay center of the gay world of Spain. It's got I don't know, at least 50% gay population in this neighborhood. But in this building, there's maybe 15 or 17 flats, and 3 of them are women living by themselves into their 80s who've lived in this building for like 40, 50 years. So they tend to be healthy, they tend to live longer and lead life. I mean, I see them coming and going. They're not sedentary. They don't sit in their apartments. They're out with their friends having lunch, drinking a little wine and whatever. But by all indications, it's a good life. Well, until you're not able to get around yourself.
It's the wine that keeps you young.
I think that has something to do. At least I'm a believer, Mark.
And the Mediterranean diet.
Yes, lots of fish.
Olive oil instead of margarine or butter.
Yeah.
So we have we have 7 more questions.
Bring it on.
Okay, come on.
All right. How accessible are the red clay tennis courts to the public? I don't know anything about that, so.
I don't think the 3 of us are not tennis players. So red clay tennis courts.
But tennis courts. Well, could be the Real Tennis Club de Barcelona, but this is in an upper town, in upper side of town. They are courses for playing tennis, but it's usually here, maybe from, I don't know, that it's not easy to find in downtown sporting places, okay? But maybe in other places you can see basketball and so on. Right. Here you can go to the clubs, and you can find them in clubs, not exactly on the road.
There's a lot of swimming clubs, but as far as tennis and outdoor basketball courts,
there are sport clubs as well. Even in Montjuic, there's.
In Montjuic, they are. Yeah. You need to.
You'd have to
need to apply to a club.
I would say to Google that, and I'm sure you can find.
Have you seen? We are not a sporting guys.
Well,
we're not tennis
Well,
players.
what doesn't matter. We can go climbing, go to the mountain, we walk around 20 miles, but not exactly for playing tennis.
Okay,
What's the next question?
question, is it difficult to bring pets, a cat or a dog?
I brought my cat, or actually I came here and I had a friend bring my cat 6 months later. It's not difficult. You generally have to get you have to go through your vet and then get a certain type of certification from your state, the official unit in the state about the health of your pet, and then work with the airline in bringing that pet over. My cat was small enough that it was carried in the cabin under the seat. And when my friend went through the airport, they didn't even check the cat in the carrying bag. So, but she stopped to make sure that all the paperwork was properly done. So it's not difficult to bring your pet over.
And I appreciate the question because I'm getting a new puppy in 2 weeks myself, but I didn't bring one with me. But I will tell you, I think we would all agree Barcelona is an extremely dog-friendly city. I don't see as many outdoor cats. I think most of them are kept indoors, but it seems like every other person has a dog. And they do pick up after them most of the time.
Most of the time.
My only disappointment is, to be honest, the downside is that here in the city center, there are not as many parks as I would like for there to be. There are dog parks. They're mostly small and sandy, but the best parks in Barcelona are a bit away from the city center.
And one thing you'll find is you'll bring your pet to the local vet, and if the pet is going to be out, if it's not a cat and like a dog, you'll probably get a European passport for your pet. Yep. So they'll be chipped, and then they'll be able to travel anywhere in Europe.
Right.
Okay. Another question, did you consider living in Sitges? Is it Sitges? Rather Barcelona.
I did.
Yes, I did too. I looked at that.
For about a minute and a half.
When one of my visits here to Barcelona, I spent a few weeks in Sitges after the tourist season. And it's unfortunately, it's pretty dead.
That's the word I would
after
use.
mid-October. And so, I mean, and that may be fine for some people. And, but the influx of lots of tourists in the summer and then nothing in the winter, for me, I needed a more stable community.
Yeah.
But it's 30-40 minute train ride from Barcelona to Sitges. So it's an easy access, and it's a fantastic place to.
It is. We all, everybody loves Sitges to visit. And as Rod said, before I made the decision, the winter before I moved here, I came here in late January or February, and I just went and spent a day in Sitges because I had been there before, loved it, like everybody. Dead is the appropriate word. I mean, most businesses are closed. Most restaurants are closed for months because there's just the local community, and there aren't that. It's a small town.
Gotcha. So I don't think there's any more questions in the chat, but now we could open up if anybody wants to add or say anything, ask any questions live, you can unmute yourself.
Are there neighborhoods in the city that you particularly suggest avoiding looking at?
Yeah.
Well, who goes to speak? Okay, I can speak.
You, Jordy.
Okay, okay, well, I will avoid places with a huge touristic area. So that means Ramblas, Gothic neighborhood, Sagrada Familia area. Avoid it. My suggestion, the rest of neighborhood will be great in Barcelona. especially because it's a small town, it's a small city. It's not, we are talking about in comparison with American one, this is a smaller here than other cities. So I will suggest a neighborhood like this one we are now. The name is Eixample. Eixample is it's a neighborhood with a 19th century or beginnings of 20th century houses with a lot of Art Nouveau. You are not far of the touristic spot. You can go walking in 10 minutes, but you are living a local life. Yeah. That's important. The neighborhood where now is a road, it was my neighborhood. I love it. It's the same Eixample. It's not far of Raval. Raval is a part of Old Town, but now it's a place you can find everything. It's very cheap. For you have a good market, you have a good fresh market with a lot of supermarkets and a lot of places to buy, a lot of bars, tapas, places. They are very well commute to the rest of town. They are 2 subways, there are a lot of buses, and you are living a local life. That is important. You go to any bar, any place in Barcelona of Ciutat Bella, that is Old Town, or Sagrada Familia, it's okay.
Right. I would say, I would also add, I totally agree with what Jordy said, the Gothic area or the Old Town. And he may be including in that Raval, but I would avoid Raval as it's just a little less safe.
It's a little edgy.
It's a little edgy. It's a place to visit at times.
Yeah.
And there's certain areas that are
not
fine.
for living.
Yeah.
I think that depending on the kind of living you want to live an adventure, okay, you can go there.
But there's literally, I mean, we are surrounded in this specific location. I live in La Chample, as Jordy called it. It's also often referred to as gay Champles.
Right.
But there's left La Chample and there's right La Chample. They're both lovely. And I'd say with the exception of Raval, all of the surrounding neighborhoods around La Chample, San Antonio, Gloria, are nice neighborhoods to live where you're going to find lots of bars and restaurants and safety and shops and supermarkets.
Especially you can save money because matter is it's incredible in Barcelona that you can go to the healthy neighborhood here are cheaper than in the Barcelona that is near the beach. So you can go to it to go to the restaurant in Sarria. That is a very healthy neighborhood with houses with $2 million, $3 or $4 million, and then prices in the restaurant is 20, 30s. So if you go to Barcelona, it's in 50s.
Right. So that would be the third. That's the other neighborhood I would say to generally avoid. Great place to visit is Barceloneta, which is on the beach. It tends to be very touristy. But right next to Barceloneta is Poblenou, which is right on near the beach, but not as touristy. So those are some suggestions.
Yes, it started to be touristy, but it's okay. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree. It's a matter that just a question is to avoid the touristic area in Barcelona. It's high prices, bad quality. Unfortunately, that's a really. I don't want to talk very. We are here for talking well about Barcelona, but you can try to avoid touristic areas for living. Okay, because you want to live, you need to buy stuff. You need to go to the supermarket. You need to go to the shop. Or to go to the municipal market, and in that area, there are nothing. Right. So better to be a little bit far from there, maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes walking to arrive there, but living with as a Barcelona people live.
And yeah, every time I have friends visiting, whether they're from the US or Europe or elsewhere, I tell everybody, sure, take a walk down La Rambla once. Don't eat there, don't shop there, because all the food tastes the same. It's nothing spectacular with high prices. And you're going to see McDonald's and Burger King and all the same retailers that you're going to find in the US. What's the point? You're here to live in Spain, to experience the culture and so forth. And while those places are only a 15-minute walk for me, I'm there maybe once every 2 months or so because there's something there I want to buy or whatever. But yeah, so the consensus here is just avoid where all the tourists and all the big Western hotels are. And of course, the closer you get to the beach, you're going to see more and more of that, higher prices, and you're not going to have much opportunity to mingle or meet with a lot of Spanish people. They're all foreign tourists.
Right.
I have a question.
Yes.
I guess I know the answer, but do you guys use your air conditioning and heating often?
I would say less so. I would say spring and fall, hardly at all.
Right.
And then as we get into winter, and winter here really begins mid or late December through early March. And every year it can change a little bit, vary, using the heat. And then in the summer, I would say from mid to late June through the end of August. And then some days in September using the air conditioning.
Agreed. Absolutely. It's very temperate spring and summer. Last winter, again, depending on where you live, how well insulated is your apartment. And it's probably worth mentioning, we all talk about our piso, our apartment, our flat. There are virtually no single family homes in the center of Barcelona. So if anybody thinks you're going to easily find a 2,000, 2,500 square foot, 4-bedroom split level, Barcelona is not for you. But my point is, last winter, which was a little more severe than the one before that, but last winter I turned my heat on 4 times. And usually it's radiator heating if it's an older building. But as Rod said, I had my AC on, if not during the day, certainly at night to sleep from late June to early September. But to give you an idea, it's 9:15 and right now it's about 68 degrees here in virtually the last day of October. You just don't need it from much at all from October through to April.
And one other thing is that there's not there are not many flying insects around here, so you can have your windows open. There are no, I mean, I would say almost nowhere do you see screens, just because there aren't a lot of flying insects. So
that's good for me.
Yeah,
because I'm a mosquito magnet.
Another question?
Yeah. So Greg has a question. I'm not a great alcohol consumer. For all intent and purposes, I don't drink. Am I drinking only water in restaurants?
That might change if you move here. No, just
no, it's you'd be perfectly comfortable being here as a non-alcoholic drinker. So I have friends that don't drink and it's just fine. It's just fine. So it may have been more of an issue maybe years back, but in terms of feeling like you're one part of the group, but these days people respect people's choices.
Yeah, there's no stigma, and I see lots of men, even in the drinking bars, gay bars, a lot of men drinking, whether it's non-alcoholic beer, Coke Zero, sparkling water. It's commonplace.
Yeah.
But you're missing out on all these great red wines.
And yeah.
Very inexpensive.
And very inexpensive, yes.
And you're not too far from Portugal too.
Nope.
Porto is famous.
Been there, done that.
Okay, let's see what else we have. There are exceptions to the 10 months in the last 5 years rule. I'm going to continue unpaid research in another country for 3 to 4 months a year.
There might be exceptions, and I would just thoroughly research that. I would say that's something that you want to know beforehand before you begin to do that. Yeah, there very may well be exceptions, especially if it's on official, for some official reason. But I can't tell you for sure.
Thanks.
Are there any more questions? Feel free to open up. These guys, I think they want to go to bed.
No, we want to go.
No, we're heading is paying at
We all have plans.
Oh, that's right.
Here.
We have to go to have lunch.
This is dinner time, and 9 p.m. is dinner time in Barcelona. So that's the one thing you'd have to get used to. You can find restaurants that are open up earlier. 8 o'clock is usually the time restaurants will open for dinner, but any earlier than that, you would have to go to the tourist areas to get a good dinner. So
no early bird specials.
No early.
Yeah,
bird.
that would be at 8 o'clock.
That still wouldn't be a special.
No, it wouldn't.
After siesta.
Well, they do have what's commonly referred to, which took a little getting used to, but great for your budget. They have menu del dia. That usually it's for the main meal, which is lunch here, which is 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And for 12 to 15 euro, I mean, all the wine you can drink, beer, meat, vegetable, dessert, coffee for 10 to 15 euros. And some restaurants do that for dinner as well.
Wow.
So I love, I don't know, I don't see your name, but I love
Somebody's in
background.
Barcelona.
Sagrada Familia.
Yeah.
Sagrada Familia. Thank you.
Yeah, that's me. That's a photo I took when I was there 2 months ago. We stayed at Axel in.
Oh, well, we are 1 block from the Axel Hotel here.
Well, next time I'm there, we'll have to come and say hello and go for some tapas.
Definitely. I'm 4 blocks away. So
I'll buy the tapas. You pay for the wine.
All right.
Tim, let me know when you go.
All right. We
We'll
should
do
go
another
again.
reunion.
I don't know how long ago you were here, but you'd hardly recognize it now because the whole top is covered with cranes because they're topping it off basically.
Yeah, I was just there a month and a half ago.
Oh, okay. You saw it then. You've hidden it well in your photo. Or you've
Yeah,
done
it's kind of caught.
Yeah, good for you.
But for those of you that are looking at Barcelona, I would highly recommend a vacation there. We went and spent 9 days and thoroughly enjoyed it. The people were wonderful. The food was fantastic. Very walkable, felt safe. And it wasn't just tapas, right? There's all sorts of food. We had excellent Indian food while we were there. Yep. And it's just like little places all throughout the area that you can just stop in and get some great food. So
well, thanks for the plug.
Yeah.
We agree wholeheartedly.
And I would say since I've been here and from 2014, there's been a great expansion of international restaurants in the Barcelona area. It was hard finding, good ethnic foods outside of the what's typically served here, but that's improved greatly. So you have a lot of variety.
My only complaint is there's Mexican restaurants starting to spring up, and they just don't do spicy food. Even
there was no.
Are afraid to put a bottle of hot sauce on the table. I've asked a couple of times; they didn't even have any. So I keep a bottle in my refrigerator that I take with me if I'm going to a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah, we took the train down to Sitges, and one of the people in our group had a friend, Big Al, who owns like a hamburger spot in Citrus.
Oh, I know Big Al.
Big Al.
Yeah,
Big Al
so
American Kitchen.
yeah. So we went there and he's like, yeah, we try to make them hot, but even the jalapenos are bred to not be spicy here. It's so hard to get anything spicy.
Yeah.
People hate spicy food in Spain. I love it, but even most of the most famous tapas in Spain is patatas bravas. That is a potato, fried potato with a hot sauce over.
It's delicious, but not spicy.
That is not spicy. It is
No.
not spicy. That's incredible.
Even the padrones are not spicy.
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
don't get us started about all the misnomers. I had a few friends. I moved here from Palm Springs for what it's worth, and it looks like somebody has a photo up from my backyard in Palm Springs. Anyway,
Peter.
I just I heard from all my friends before I left saying, "Oh my God, you're going to get great Mexican food there. They eat tapa." No, they don't do Mexican food. They don't do it well anyway. Just like, you know, there's not much flamenco dancing in Barcelona. But anyway, those are subtleties of what we know and don't know until you spend some time here.
Tim, we'll have to do a reunion. Just
Absolutely.
FYI, Tim and I go back quite a ways.
Into the 80s, I think.
80,
Wow.
84.
Yep.
And you're still friends. Incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, we've maintained that online relationship all those years.
Good for you.
So,
Any other questions, comments? I want to thank you guys. I mean, all three. I mean, you were wonderful. A boatload of information, great information. And I really wholeheartedly thank you all for your participation in this. It was great.
Well, thank you.
Enjoyed doing it.
Yeah,
and you guys collectively had some great questions. I'm sure we've missed a few things, but from the resources we've provided, and I suspect Mark has our contact details, or you can reach all of us on the website, right? The WhatsApp group.
We're in
Facebook.
We're in the Facebook group.
Yeah.
Right, in the Facebook
Yeah,
group,
sorry.
right, and
Where to Gaze Retire, or
Gaze
you can reach out on the website. And this Zoom has been recorded. It's going to take quite a while to get it, together, but I'll have it posted on my website. There's a page on the website for previous Zoom recording library.
Mark, there are more information in our presentation with about LGBTQI community, about food in Barcelona, and so on. We are talking a little about that, but there are more information in that presentation. Okay.
so Mark, you could also put in where you're gonna have the link for the Zoom recording. You could put the link for the slides there as well.
Okay.
So people can look at that and look at the slides that they missed.
Obviously, if people want more information, they can contact us, or maybe you can. Okay, we are very happy to give more information and try to help to take the decision for coming here.
Thank you, David, very much. Another
Appreciate
federal
it.
employee.
If you come here to Barcelona, please drop us a line and we can go to drink something together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, even if just for a visit.
Yeah, we'll
Prepare to
next year
eat something.
after COVID calms down a little bit, that's on our list, our bucket list.
Thank you.
Barcelona is now full of people from all over Europe, so that's it. Maybe hope next year will be American people come again.
I will say when we visited, one of the things that we noticed was that everyone wore their masks inside. And I would say about 40 to 50% of the people wore them outside as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's true.
Yes.
And there are virtually no anti-vaxxers. Everybody pretty much follows the mainstream. They will look out for each other. It just raises my blood pressure every time I turn on CNN.
Yeah, you and me
See
both.
what's going on there.
In fact, I just vacationed in Portland and Seattle, and it's totally different than it is here in Phoenix. Everybody was wearing masks indoors. Everyone was, half of the population, I would say, also wore masks outdoors. It's just, it depends where you are.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. All about freedom, right?
Yep.
Common sense.
Yeah. Been a pleasure, gentlemen.
Yes,
Thank you
thank
very
you
much.
again.
Thank you.
Night.
Have a great night.
Take care, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
I swear that's Palm Springs.